CNBC's Steve Leisman is here with us to break it all down. Also with us, Erica York, Vice President of Federal Tax Policy at the Tax Foundation. It's great to have you both here. So let's just back up, Steve, for a second. The formula, as mentioned, this is laser focused on goods. It doesn't matter if we run a service in surplus with the other country. This is about the trade deficit in goods, and whatever happened earlier this week is not a barometer, it seems, for this announcement.
Yeah, I don't want to start off in a caustic way, but you asked, is that calculus? To a lot of trade experts, Kelly, it's gibberish. That's really the problem. When this thing came out, my initial reaction was to, be a reporter. And I called up these trade experts, including one we're going to talk to in a second, and I said, have you ever heard of this? And they said, no. Do you know anybody who's ever used this formula to determine the trade burden or onus or whatever? And everybody said no. What's interesting is, here's the White House comment. I don't know if you guys have it. No, not the formula. Here's the comment where, if you look at what they say, I don't know if I have it in front of me, but it says that we used something that's been used in a lot of other times and places. But they just made it up, Kelly. Nobody's ever heard of it. There it is. I want to emphasize, said a White House official, that these tariffs are customized to each country, and the numbers have been calculated by the Council of Economic Advisors using very, very well-established methodologies from international trade economic literature, but nobody's ever heard of it, Kelly. So I think they made up that statement and they made up that formula.
And I know that people are making a lot of that, but to me, it's like we're embarking on a once in 100 years. We're going back to the way things were. You heard it in the speech pre-1913. So of course we're kind of making it up. There's not really a playbook for this.
Well, here's the thing, Kelly. You and I and the entire all of Wall Street and the country, we were braced for something that might resemble and might be defensible, if arguable, as reciprocal tariffs. These are not reciprocal. These are essentially non-reciprocal punitive tariffs, including, it looks like, according to this Newsweek article, on a chunk of British ocean territory, Diego Garcia, where there's a U.S. military base, they're also been tariffed.
Listen, they've been bad actors. No, let me sort of raise what I also think is the trillion-dollar question in all of this, Steve. And Erica, I'll bring you in a second. What is the revenue going to be used for? So you look at JPM's estimate, they say $400 billion this could raise. Capital Economics, $800 billion, whatever the number is. Here's why it matters.
Yeah.
We're all assuming this is just this one-time tax hike on consumers, the biggest we've had since 1968 and so forth. But what if the money, if we actually raise some significant amount, offsets the income tax? What if they're talking about a middle income tax? So we don't yet know the rest of the story.
Can I answer that question after Erica speaks? Because she's the one who does the great calculations on what happens to a 1 or a 10% tariff over time. And well, I'll let her speak.
Okay, Erica, welcome. And let me just set you up with a couple of the questions that I've gotten from viewers and from the audience. Barb's asking, my question is, how are the tariffs going to affect families? My daughter is a working mom of 3, ages 15, 12, and 9. Another person asks, who do you think will pay for the tariff increases? They're talking about automobiles, but consumer or manufacturers. Will manufacturers eat those increases? So, I mean, to the extent that you can, try to field all of these and bring it together for us.
Yeah, so the tariffs will create a tax burden on the U.S. economy, and it will be shared by workers and by business owners. Some companies may be able to pass their tariff costs on to retail prices. Others won't. They'll have to eat that cost. It reduces their revenues, their profits, which means they might have to cut hiring. They might have to cut returns to shareholders. So in either way, whether the cost is passed forward or passed backward, it's American workers and American business owners who bear that burden. We've estimated that the revenue raised by these tariffs in 2025, if they're all left in place, will be about $290 billion. That's a lot lower than what you might hear elsewhere. That's because when we put a tax on imports, imports fall. If you think imports are going to stay the same, you're out of step with the economic literature. We also know that when tariff payments rise, other tax revenues fall. Tariffs, like I mentioned, pull income out of the economy before it's actually sent to workers or to shareholders. So it shrinks the bases of the income tax and the payroll tax, cutting off some of the direct tariff revenue. That's what gets us down to that $290 billion. And on average, that amounts to a tax increase of more than $2,100 per U.S. household, or a reduction in after-tax income of more than 2%. It hits lower income households and middle income households, so working class people, harder than it does wealthier people, because lower income households consume more of their income than the wealthy do. So this is a regressive tax increase. Even if it's used to partially offset something like, let's say, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act extension, about the bottom 80% of taxpayers are worse off under that trade because the tariffs are a larger tax hike on them than the tax cuts will provide a benefit.